Linda, we're back. Whoa. All right. Before I bring them on stage, I got to get a little life out of you guys. You got Diablo, the Blizzard team here, right? We're going to do another old school ZBrush Summit because it's the 10th anniversary. We're going to do it because I got to feel your guys' passion here right now. So this is what we're going to do. This is what this half of the room, your Z. This half of the room, your brush. When I point at your half of the room, you say what I asked you to. You say what everyone's good? All right, let's give it a try. Okay. Let's. The power I have in one hand is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. All right, well, we're going to get me out of here. We got a new host. We're going to bring him in around. Mr. Louis Tucci. He's going to come in. He's going to be your new host over here. I warmed him up for you. I warmed him up. You're up now.
Put an extra curl in my hair.
All right. I'm going to leave. I'm going to exit stage and let you take it from here. Yes, sir. What, you got something for me?
Just a second. Slow it right down here.
I can't.
Do you think it's possible we get them to say it all at the same time?
Sure, try. Maybe.
Okay,
do
all at the same time, the left and the right. Can we hear you say it one time really loud inside the green screen hangar of the fabled grounds of the Noman School of Visual Effects, the shadow of the Hollywood sign?
I'll let you do it.
1, 2, 3.
You're confusing them now. You're going to tell them. They just got instructions from me to do this and then do this.
No.
Okay,
one more
do
time.
this.
Listen, everybody all at the same time. I'm going to count to 3, and then we're going to light the roof up, all right? 1, 2, 3. That's good.
All right, I'm out of this. Has been great.
Say goodbye to Paul. Give it up for Paul Gabriel, please. Thanks a lot. Okay. Really quick, before the team takes over, I just want to say there must have been something in the water in 1997 because around that time there's a little thing called ZBrush happening, but at the same time, this franchise is being born too. So, you know, it was a good year for all things digital. Welcome to the stage. Here we are today celebrating all these years later, critically acclaimed title like Diablo. It's a pleasure to host you guys. And I just want to say, give it up once for Arnaud Kotenkopf. Wave to the people. Ben Ert, Jamir Blanco, and Jason Huang. Put your hands together. I guess without further ado, you continue to define what it looks like to be cool in this genre. So I'll hand over the mic duties to all of you, but let's try to make some noise one more time for all the people at home to make them a little jealous. 1, 2, 3, everybody. Yeah. All right, take it away, guys.
Yep. There we go. All right, mic does work. You works.
You guys are sounding electric.
All sound. Can you hear us, everybody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Yeah. A big welcome from all the 4 of us. It's an honor. We're excited. We have stage fright and we're nervous, but can't wait to get started with here. So today we just want to like you to walk you through some of the insights from our character modeling workflow for both game and the cinematic team. So this whole presentation is split up in 2 parts. So we start with the game side of things. There we have Arnaud and myself, and then we switch over to the cinematics team, who does all this amazing hybrid stuff, with Jamir and Jason. And before we get started, we like to introduce ourselves a little, really quick. Next slide. Here we go. Oh, you first.
I'm Arnaud Kotenkopf, Associate Art Director on character for Diablo IV. The little representation of my past productions. So I worked on Africa, Far Cry 3, Battlefront 2, Far Cry Primal, and Diablo IV. The last guy you can see is the guy you can find in ZBrush, the Earthquake demo asset. So.
Oh, yeah. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Benyet. I'm currently one of the character art leads at Blizzard on Diablo IV. I've been in the industry for a bit over 10 years, and I started at Guerrilla in 2013 with Killzone's Shadowfall, later shipped Horizon Zero Dawn. In the meantime, I was doing some freelance work. One of the jobs I did was working for Blur Studio on the first season of Love, Death, and Robots. Then I joined Blizzard in 2018. helped out directly with Diablo IV, but also in between helped out the cinematics guys with working on Shadowlands and Dragonflight. And here we are today.
All right. Hey everyone, my name is Jameer Blanco. I'm a senior character creature modeler at Blizzard Cinematics. I've been working in the film and game industries for a little over 7 years now. Went to school for animation and visual effects at Academy of Art University. Then I finished my degree at FIU down in Florida, where I started working in television and commercials as a 3D generalist. I worked in the TV industry for about 3 years. Then in 2016, I started working at the Moving Picture Company, also known as MPC, up in Montreal, Canada. There I got to meet a lot of really great people, got to do a lot of really cool modeling and sculpting on movies like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, as well as Ghost in the Shell. I was on the environment team, so modeling a lot of sci-fi buildings, hallways, destroyed environments, which was a blast to do in ZBrush, by the way, no pun intended. Just a bunch of really cool opportunities where I got to further develop my skills. After that, I jumped into the gaming industry, started working under Square Enix at the time at Crystal Dynamics, who some of you may also know as the creators of Tomb Raider. Worked there for a couple of years on cinematics. Then in 2019, I came over to Blizzard Entertainment, where I've been working as a cinematic character creature modeler, helping bring characters to life such as Lorath, Donan, Lilith, Tuskar Fishermen, and so many others. I'm very glad to be here with you guys today and can't wait to share what we have in store. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason. I'm the principal character modeler on the cinematics team at Blizzard. I graduated in '05 from SCAD, and my first job was actually across the street from here. They don't exist anymore, Pacific Title. And then I moved on to Rhythm and Hues, worked there for a few years in visual effects. And then about 10 years ago, I moved over to Blizzard as a character modeler, and then I've worked on various projects there, starting from like Warlords of Draenor, and then StarCraft 2, Overwatch, and the latest is like the Dragonflight and Diablo IV.
Okay, we'd like to just give you a quick overview of what's going to happen within the next 80 minutes. So here's a quick outline. We start with the game team. So because we had to split up 80 minutes or 90 minutes across the 4 of us, we decided to go 20 minutes each and everybody's going to do a demo inside of ZBrush and talks about the workflow, shows some tips and tricks. And we start off with Arnaud, after that myself, and then we go over to cinematics team with Jameer and Jason. So I'm doing a demo about, Arnaud's going to demo about concept sculpting inside of ZBrush. He has some very neat tricks that he uses to do armor sets that are really fast or a component of an armor set. I'm pretty much doing the next step in the pipeline, but in this case, I take one of the demons we created and I redetail a section of his arm, showing a few tricks and how I make demon skin, leathery skin by hand, also some skin transitions and sculpt some one of his horns. Then Jameer is taking us through the Herald of Hatred sculpting process, and we rounded off with some awesome cloth workflow by Jason over there. All right, so questions we can handle every time we could handle them every time we switch to the next person, because there's maybe a time window of a minute or 1.5 minutes because we have to close ZBrush and restart it and load our custom UIs. So that's an opportunity to ask questions.
That gets you covered.
Yes. Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you. And of course, at the end, and there's still time. All right. So you ready?
Am I?
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go.
I think that's where you make noise.
Yeah. You got your ZBrush.
And I will put the screen vertical. So I will take you through the journey of a character modeler when you build an armor set for Diablo and you're inside ZBrush. So basically, this is the rogue, by the way. This is the rogue female. I just set up my scene very quickly with 2 little characters on the top to remind you that the game camera is a 3/4 top view, and that's the game. So basically, when you build an armor set for a character, that's probably the first feedback you get is like, is the game cam correct? Like, all the landmark, the silhouette, is it hitting the camera properly? So that's very important for us. Just put it as a reminder, so modelers should always check that. So let's say the idea is like to work on a new piece of armor for this character, which is, by the way, a production of Ben Hurt. He built this armor set for the reveal trailer. Nice work. It's approved.
He's my boss. He has to.
It's been approved, and it's in a reveal trailer, so it's definitely approved. Just decimated it a little bit. Hope it's fine.
You're the boss.
Yeah. Just for the performance, to make sure. So yeah, just to make sure my demo is going to be fast. So I'm going to take you through what a modeler should do when you receive a concept. So I'm going to do a little broadcast of this rogue. I've prepared a couple of. So let me go through this. I will just remove all the parts. And I will show you something important as well, which is the body cut. Like it's, you know, Diablo have loot and different parts. So you have the helmet, the arm, the torso, the legs, and the boots. So you have to always be extremely cautious about where the next section is splitting. So that was just a hint to show you where it cuts. Therefore, the modeler needs to be careful of that part. Let me go back to...
Because the modular system, Diablo IV, works in a way that we can, in the game, you can separate or switch out torsos and legs, components, and gloves. So this also has to be taken into account really, really early, even in the design process. Even concept art has to do that. So in the early modeling stages, we have to do that too. So, okay. So
yeah, I will... So you take the idea, or my approach about how to make an armor set or a piece of armor very sleek, very close to the body, because the rogue is one of the characters that have very sleek armor. It's always like layered, a lot of layer, but very close to the skin. So the idea is like to always extract things. Like my process is like literally masking and extract. So let's say I'm gonna do no, not this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do on one side. That's fine. So I just do a little mask. I can get rid of the game cam, and I'm gonna try to show you through ZBrush extract. So I don't touch any option. I'm just gonna hit extract, and I will accept that. Just gonna isolate to show you. So when you extract, you have a little thickness. I just get rid of it, and I will delete hidden to make sure nothing is there. And I will ZRemesh part. And usually I like the ZRemesh to the lowest possible setup. And I have a topology that's going to be extremely manageable for later. You will understand why. And I will go and use the dynamic to get some surface that is a little bit more smooth. And right away, I try to put, since it's an armor piece and it's like a volume, I'm going to put some thickness to this piece. And we're going to look at that. So here's my extract. So basically, we're kind of back to the part I extracted, but it's going to be way more easy for me to manipulate that part. Mm-hmm. So the next thing I really like to use, since we said we want to be close to the skin, is like to make the skin a collider. And for that, I'm gonna use the close move brush, which is my favorite brush to use. And I'm just gonna show you how this brush works. It's like it's a move, but it's always gonna preserve the volume of the surface, like a cloth, of course. And that's kind of nice for an armor piece as well. But like you can see, the mesh is not pushing it at all for now. So I need to make that collidable. So I'm gonna open my dynamics and I'm gonna put it right here. So I'm going to calculate the collision volume. So my mesh is going to snap to it. So let's see what happened. So this is a bit too far because I need to make it a little bit thinner. So now, Control Z that. Just make sure. Now my mesh is following the surface perfectly and always preserve its proportions. So basically, that's what I would do for, and that's my starting point. Like, second thing, to shape that part, like instead of moving and try to shape it with the move brush, I like to use the pinch brush to shape my borders. And I'm in Blockart, so I really don't care about what the topology is going to do, if my polygon are still quad. It's not like a retopology moment. So I'm just shaping a little bit my parts with the pinch brush to get a nice round piece of armor, or at least roughly that. And I'm going to hit the Z-remesher again because it's going to clear a little bit and smooth things for me. Looks like this little corner have not been necessarily smooth perfectly. I like also to use another stuff. It's like I'm going to mask out just this area. I want to eventually smooth better. And I will open the deformation tools. And I'm going to, what is it? I'm going to use the polish by group. And I'm going to hit a little bit the polish by group. As you can see, the polish by group is also like helping me to smooth my surface. So I can do it on the entire mesh as well, like if I want to. It's gonna smooth all my border and become extremely round. So if I hit my close brush with my shortcut, it's gonna go faster. I can realign also with the surface. I can pull my stuff out if I want it. And so that's how I would make a piece of armor and manage to have it always following the body. I can fast forward a little bit. Let's say, so I have like prepared a tool, that subtool with, like the armor is ready with more, let's say, so that's all this. These have been made with extraction. So all of these mesh are just a one plane, just following the surface, which allow me to always have something that is really skin tight to the character. So that's very, very, very important.
So same technique, but a couple of steps further.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mention that, but yeah, instead of taking you through all that pieces, it literally takes no time. Like, honestly, this is probably an hour work. Like, it's an hour work because I'm not trying to eat something super detailed. I just want to feel the volume and always try to, like little character from GameCam again, like to try to see what my silhouette looks like and do we eat the, there is a lot of cutout. That's pretty cool. I really like that. It's the first layer, so we always try to be very functional and true to medieval era. So we always try to even imagine that is a cosplayer can make this armor set. We have a lot of people that remake or armor. Therefore, it's important for us to always go back to: is it possible to wear it? How do you remove it? So it's also a lot of things. We have a lot of reference, of course. Usually we have page of reference everywhere to make sure how this is opening, how do you remove all that. So this is visible on our process. Let me show you like one more layer on top. So it's like I continue the process. I make the underneath mesh collidable, and then I have the other little plate going to slide on top of it. So again, from the game cam, now I have a new piece that's going to break a little bit my colors, still working. So this process of blocking out the character is definitely like try to fill up the silhouette as much as possible. You don't need to get detailed because we might remove it. Even if the concept show us a little brush stroke, which is famous on the industry, like the brush stroke, what is it? So we try to figure out what is this brush stroke is, and is it meaningful in our silhouette? That make the entire, for us is the choice. Like if it's meaningful for the silhouette, yes, we're gonna make something.
And silhouette breaks are very important for a game like Diablo IV or like any isometric game because you have the top-down camera, isometric. So the silhouette breaks, it's like a gradient. The silhouette has to break the most at the top, and at the bottom it can be simpler. So that's why constant checking towards game cam, or at least like a fake game cam that you can set up here to make sure you still have those breaks in there. It's important to get it right during design.
So let me put some more layer. So it looks like we want more silhouette. So I brought a little shoulder pad, and I try to eat, to start to keep a little bit of the bottom layer, which is always interesting. Like we still want to have some remain of that underneath layer from the game cam, and make the piece a little bit more interesting.
Got 10 minutes.
And some more layers. And the metal part layers, always like a nice hit, like from the game cam. Definitely the metal is one of our favorite material to use. So sometimes like the concept might not have every little detail, the nails, like all these little nails. That's what we probably do at the 3D stage, is like to figure out where we can improve that concept. And usually like the little hit of metal with a nail, like a buckle and stuff like that. It's really the detail we always look for. Of course, it's an attachment reason, so it will make the armor functional and feel realistic. Super important. And some more layers. And another layer. Come up with a shirt underneath everything. So since everything is following, like every piece like this have been made with the cloth move. So and regenerate the collider every time. So when I made that shirt last, because I realized like something needed to be a little bit more grounded, and it's a base armor, so less legendary, less skin showing. I come up with the idea of maybe a shirt should probably be better. Therefore, the collision of the skin and between the armor and the other part is really interesting to have. It happens if you don't have the collider to be a little bit lazy, and then you think it's good enough, but at the end your character looks very puffy and it's strong. It's not a space marine. It's still a rogue. It's like a very agile character. So we don't want to have to do that after. So the blockout need to have all that volume preserved. But there is like 4 layers of clothing. So and you still need to have this skinny person underneath. So for me, the cloth move is really, and the collider is like, for the blockout, I don't necessarily want to go to another package to simulate things. I can also use simulation. I often use the simulation to make the fold drop, at least for the blockout, and it to me give result in like hours instead of days. And yeah, so that's basically what is my process toward making a blockout. There's some other stuff I can show you. Like, I don't know if you saw it, I keep turning around and turning around. Like, stuff I like to use as well is like, like the surface noise. It's something I really like to introduce because we break out volume, but also breaking material surface and roughness is a key element also of the look and feel of Diablo IV. Material have been, PBR and all sort of reflective material came in. So we needed also to deal with it and make this roughness layer like extremely readable. So at the early stage, I like to use surface noise to break the material with like a look of leather and or look of clothing. I can show you super quick what it looks like. And surface noise. So for the leather, usually I like to use the Voronoi. Basic, almost all my setup are basic. I just pick one, and I'm lucky because there is something that I like, and I just use it. Don't need, you could make your own and set up more deeply, of course. But if you're happy with it, why change it? And usually play with the plugin scale and the strength of the. I don't know if you see this here, but I can play with the strength a little bit to get to the roughness of the leather. But it breaks my specular already, so it's really interesting to use. And you can copy paste your by example, I'm happy with this surface, and then you can copy that and just start putting on the next piece, and I'm pasting it. Don't know if it worked. Here we go.
Got 5 more.
A little bit more rough. So this helps a lot as well to understand. Of course, I put color in that model. It's cool when it's gray, but yeah, the metal stands out now. So if I put my game cam again, it's more difficult to sell it to an art director and be like, yeah, am I approve on that? It's very white. So, so the idea is to get as much as possible in front of the people that are going to approve it, and convince yourself that's going to be a good asset to bake and it's going to be right, because the pipeline is long. So having everything in ZBrush looking, you can almost touch it. For us, it's like it's a time saver. So yeah.
Got 4 more minutes. Maybe you can do the collider with the plate again.
Do you want to see the collider?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
But talking about color, I was told a lot by Arnaud during our work on Diablo that color was so important to already add really early, especially for the armor sets, because color also contributes to readability of a character in game. So of course they're all textured, they have color. So I ended up adding it beforehand, and we do all the little shapes and all the detail and do all the block outs, so that we already know very early on, does it read or not, because with color you combine a lot of noisy shapes into one large shape from a distance, and then when you get closer, then you start to see the detail. So yeah, we go to the shirt.
Do you want to see a shirt? Here we go. I'm going to make a super quick shirt then. And I'm going to put back everybody. I'm going to do a little bit more resolution then, because there's more cut and various. I'm going through my shortcuts super quick.
Can we give a quick tip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Put solo on again for a second. Put solo on.
Solo mode?
Just show the shirt by itself first.
Solo mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, solo. So turn it. Yeah, so if you want to see the inside of the faces, you go down to display properties, and you turn on double.
Oh, the double side?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just for the people at home.
Yep.
Smashing the like button, hitting subscribe. And those are your tip of the day with Louis Tucci and friends.
Pro tip.
Carry on, sorry. Somebody somewhere was probably thinking that. I know it. They're like, how do you see the inside?
I like it.
Very amenable.
Leave it on.
Do you want to keep it on?
Yeah.
Ça va?
I will try. It's risky. I don't know.
Did you say whiskey or risky?
You'll be fine.
Oh, it's late
don't
on
understand
Saturday. We're
what's
getting
going
ready
on.
for something.
I'm not ready. So I'm going to put the dynamics, see what happens with double side on. And I'm going to put my thickness.
But you don't have to keep it on. I mean, I'm here to
No, it doesn't work.
hijack
right?
you.
You hijack me, because look at that. It doesn't change anything.
Turn it off.
All right, so I'm the guy with about performances. I really love when things go very fast and nothing slow down. So
Got one more.
Using my pinch brush to smooth out the area roughly to get closer to something that looks like a shirt. And I'm gonna eat my ZBrush.
So pinch brush is a way for you to fix these edges quickly.
Get that.
And I'm moving back straight.
Back bad edge.
Yeah. Then just ZBrush again.
Now we're getting into all the tips, right?
Yep. Yeah, ZBrush is definitely something that changed a lot my life because it's low poly count. You can really sometimes you have the happy accident of hey, give me a new shape and I kind of like it. So it's really interesting. Like so see it's almost clean. Like and I can use the poly group smooth, and we can go back to the model. Should be still collidable. Yeah, she's still collidable. So see, one click and everything is fit, and then don't have to worry about it. So I can just move things around.
Out of time.
There we go. Et voilà.
Is your demo?
Yes, make some noise. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Pretty slick.
Okay.
Parfait, monsieur. Parfait.
Nice.
Merci beaucoup.
Pas de problème.
So any questions on the process there out of the gate? Anybody? Now's your time. Oh, way in the back. Oh, my Lord, the hands are waving. Here we go. Deep into the bowels of the green screen hangar. Where are you? Hey, how are you?
Hi. Just wanted to ask, when you design armor part, do you have the motion in mind? Because when moving the shoulders, the armor part might collide.
Yeah, we always think about like the animation is a great. We have a lot of feedback about with the tech team for all the rotation of the character. Like every asset that have physics, especially we are super careful about the rigging possibilities because it's real time for the game. Cinematic have different constraints, but for the game we are super limited on bones and physical element like the cloth. So yes, we are super careful about these rotations.
We got more in the back.
Hi, good afternoon. It was a lovely presentation. So my question is, in regards to armor, how do you go about making really sharp edges in terms of detail?
Depend. Like to have an art surface, you mean? Like a surface element?
So I'm speaking in more of like if you have a chest plate armor that has very intricate surface details, like if it has like a deep V shape or something similar to that, how would you go about making something like that?
That's probably the next step. Like I will definitely like subdivide the mesh and go with like standard brush and go to the next level of making sharper. You can still continue to make extracts and stuff like that. But you can, with the pinch brush, I usually stay very, I don't need to have like something extremely straight, as long as it's roughly straight, like from the distance, that's all I need for now. But if I'm finishing the asset, I might retopo it or go with tool that give me the perfect sharpness.
There are many ways. I usually do, you do ZBrush, right? Or ZModeler with multiple loops.
Yeah,
something you can do. Yeah, I'm a pure Dynamesh person, so I spent the time and use H-polish to really polish it like really nice and clean. But I also keep in mind how big this thing will be in game, because if I polish so much that at a certain point you don't see the polish anymore if the piece is just that big on screen. So there's something you can do with the normal matcap checking. And you scale it up to the target size, and you see, okay, this is how my normal map will look like, and it's already clean enough. If it is, cool. If not, give it a bit more polish, and then it's usually fine for the game baking process for the normal map, usually.
Yeah, that's a great philosophy. Transferable to other sort of genres as well.
Yeah.
I saw another hand pop up over here. Oh, way over there. Okay, hang on.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's relevant in toy design as well, like looking at it on screen scale-wise. Oh, here we go. You wants to weigh in. Here we go.
I can actually wait until the
Which?
presentation.
No, that's what we're doing.
Okay. Sorry. So actually a question. So what I saw with the blockout, how far do you, is there like a straight cutoff when you get into the high poly? Because sometimes you want to keep things usually super polished, and then when it comes to like micro details and all that, you do texture work on that. So I just wanted to know, is the blockout and the high poly just sort of this amorphous phase, or is there like a cutoff? Because I saw even with the armor pieces, for the gauntlet, you had like scratches and all that. So
I think in this case, this was just because this was the finished high poly. It just took the torso apart as a demo. Everything else was still high poly stage. But if you're wondering, I guess the question is if how far we take a concept sculpt, if it's already into high poly, or if we leave it at a certain point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it varies, I think. Some concept scopes or some blockouts we do are kind of more refined because we need to do more tests on it from rigging. If rigging or tech out needs something that's shape-wise is more defined, then we take it a little further. But if it's something that is kind of repetitive, like an armor set, because it's always humanoid, you always have a torso component, arm component, we can take it lighter and speed up the process a little bit. This guy here, that was a little bit more refined in the concept scope process because of the wings and stuff. But it varies, but for armor sets, we try to keep it rather simple, so it's not so heavy on the viewport of the tech art people, and they can start already really early having something to work with. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, actually,
cool.
that'd help a bit.
All right, thank you.
There was another one, I believe. Someone else had a question? No?
Can you tell me?
Going once? Oh, wait in the
Can you
back.
time me?
One more time.
Okay.
So I have two more questions. My first one to be relatively simple. How do you go about masking really tight spaces? Like, for example, if you have like a closed fist, how would you go about masking individual fingers?
There is a way you can do it. Maybe I can demonstrate it on this guy, so we can transition into the demo. If the topology is kind of okay-ish the way it runs, you can do something with hold control and do the transpose masking. Oh, switch. Like that. Yeah, something like this. Then it goes down the fingers, and even if it's posed and the topology is the same, it will still do it. Or if you have, if your mesh has UVs, you can morph the UVs to a flat surface and then mask it from there and then go back. So there are several ways to do it in ZBrush these days. So yeah, I run into the same problem sometimes. So
Awesome.
Good question.
Thank you. And then my final question is, what have you found to be the best approach to sculpt out tears?
Oh, tears out of cloth?
Of cloth. I see here in the wing as well, you have several holes that have details around them as well. So I was just wondering what was the best way you found to go about making that design?
We have multiple ways. Like every one of us has a bit of a different approach. I can show you mine if you want. Let me take this belt piece here because it has the same. What I like to use is the /1 or /2, that's called. I turn down the intensity a little bit because it can be quite aggressive. And then what I do is, you can just go ahead and draw like a line across this and do a bit like, almost like a heart rate kind of thing, stroke, where it creates this kind of step-up surface and cut in. And then do maybe another subdivision and grab dam standard and emphasize those a bit. Maybe a little less intensity. So I use the slash approach a lot. There are other people in our team, they don't even do this in the high poly. They bake the belt down clean, bring it into substance, and then they use different projection methods of torn belts that they took pictures of, or what I figured out works really well is like old book covers. They have these nice torn, messed up edges on the side, and if you can use those to use as a projection texture, that one works really well too. There are multiple ways to do it. Inside of ZBrush, that's my approach. I'm not sure if you guys have any personal cool approaches to tear up cloth. I know Cinematics team, they model everything by hand in there.
Yeah, we do a lot of, we'll just visibility lasso, you know, so things that usually have tears and stuff, we'll try to keep it single-sided for as long as we can, and then it's easy to just, you know, give it enough topology that you can just kind of mask it and hide it, or just visibility lasso it, and you know, you can kind of start coming up with like quick concepts that way. And then once it's approved, you know, you could use like dynamic subdivision to get the nice rounded edges, and so that way they're not like all square on jaggedy on the edges. And then you could always, you know, take it multiple ways, like use dynamic thickness, or just extract it, you know, to make it double-sided or something. I think Jason usually does something similar, right?
Yeah, something similar.
Okay. Was that helpful, or do you need an? What? Okay, sure. All right.
Roll forward.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going.
Okay. All right. So, what did I want to do? Oh, yeah. Demon skin. So what I'm going to do, I take this bad boy, and I will just show you like my personal approach on sculpting like leathery skin for this kind of stuff. Especially if let's say I don't have any custom alphas or extracted alphas at hand, but there's a way to do it manually, and I personally like to do it that way. And so let's get started. So we take this arm here from this dude straight out of the gym. And, oh, quick question to the audience. Does this material make you see it better, or this one? I just want to make sure everybody sees it right. That one? Okay, thank you. All right, so what I do, I take just the standard brush, and I use the alpha, stock alpha, I think alpha 60, and put the density, the intensity down to 14, so it's not that harsh to the surface. And what I do is, I try to follow the flow of the anatomy a little bit. So what I'm going to come in and hold Alt, so I'm carving inwards. And just go ahead and try to follow this here a bit, because I'm knowing this, he has those spikes we go around. And even here on the pecs a little bit. I'm not doing the entire thing, more like this section here for the sake of time. But I keep it very loose. I'm holding my pen like this, so I'm not pressing really hard. This is more like to mimic the flow of skin on this arm. That comes down here. Okay, maybe around those spikes again. And I try to repeat it at a certain point more often to get it a little bit deeper, to add a variation in the intensity and the scale, to have a bit more contrast, especially in areas that wrinkle a lot. I know there's the triceps over here, so I'm trying to come around this one. Right there, and then go lower with the intensity a little bit. And go a little bit harsher. There we go. So this is how usually I would start. And then crank the intensity out a bit more, scale down, and then again I go into these areas that I mentioned before that I need a bit more of the wrinkle. So we got this contrast between less intensity and more intensity that makes the whole skin look a bit more interesting here. All right, so far for this brush. Then I can use the damn standard. I have my own version that I made a couple of years ago. It's very much similar. It uses the same alpha, but it has pretty much the same effect. And I go in and I carve in some of these a little bit more, so I have something like these deeper, sausage-y like wrinkles going on there. And I still try to try to maintain the flow of the skin, the flow of anatomy. Wrinkles, I think usually they follow, or they start to appear kind of perpendicular of the stretch direction of the muscle. So when a muscle contracts this way, I sculpt wrinkles that way. Let's go in. Here a bit more. I'm not trying to be super photoreal, but believable enough to make this look interesting and look like it could be real leathery skin, but at the same time still staying within the realm of the Diablo art direction, which has all these nasty skin surfaces, creatures, and stuff. So going a bit more. So I try to go less, so it's like a gradient, more like a fade into his arm, and then it comes back here at the elbow section. And that's one really important point, I think, when it comes to skin or creature skin in general, is skin transitions. So that one skin doesn't stop harshly at another. So skin transitions is a big thing in surfacing or sculpting creature skin in general. So I took the inflate brush, and what I'm trying to do is incorporate these spikes a bit more because they grow out of his meat skin over here. And I like the inflate brush in this case because it takes the details I already have and it squeezes them together. That creates this nice effect. And then do this a little bit more on some areas and less on the others, so it looks more like scales or callus. Is callus the right word for it?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Right there. Do the same thing on this one. And then do a larger stroke with a less intensity on top of it, so it lifts the whole area up beneath the spike, so it looks like it's just coming out. And I take the same brush and emphasize some of these sausage wrinkles again, so I just sculpt over what I already have. So the first brush with that wrinkle alpha was more like giving me an idea and a direction, and almost like a guide for my later work. Put it up here. Do the same on this. And again, I follow my rules I set up first, saying I have a transition from the shoulder area down into the arm, where it gets less and less. And then what I can do is switch materials to the matte cap and look from a distance. If he's this big on screen, do I have to add more detail? I could, of course, it's fun, but for my task schedule, my time schedule, I have to double check if it's necessary or if I can just leave it the way it is. All right, let's add a few more calluses to make the skin a bit more interesting. And randomness is something I personally really like because it adds this sense of realism to it, because nothing is really perfect. Here. There's different ways to do it. Of course, we can load like a point alpha and spray it on top, but having a bit more manual control is cool for this. We're good with time? Oh, there we go. Okay.
You're good. They're blowing you up in the chat here. So you're killing it with the fast details. You're really quick is what I was going to tell you earlier.
I try to do it.
Yeah.
I think this is just a mix of Arno's stopwatch and having stage fright. I don't know.
Well, if you're afraid, just keep being afraid because it looks really great.
Can perform better at work now, right? Okay, so I calloused this up a bit more. Yeah, it looks nice and nasty. So if we switch to my normals here and I check it again, if this is kind of the screen size over here on the top. Yeah, we start losing a little bit, but let's see if, let's say, he appears in a cinematic and we get a little closer, then this is something I would love to see. So this would be, okay, we'll be ready for it. So there's this quick demo about how I would approach skin without any alphas, just 3 brushes and a stock alpha. Now, let's say I have something like in this case where alphas, custom alphas have already been added. So if you have alphas that are from Surface Mimic or from Texture XYZ and you stamp them up top to kind of set the rules for what the skin is. Let's say art direction was happy with this, and now I'm okay. And let's say the entire character is full of those, and let them do. Now I need to manually create those skin transitions that I said are so important. So let's say what I first do is, and this usually goes really quick, but I break it down a little bit for a better understanding, is, you know, this skin type here, it sets some certain rules. And I think it's important to know, or to kind of read and observe and say, all right, what are the main shapes, what are the main rules of the skin? We have big calluses, we have smaller scales, we have some areas that are kind of crisscross, deep and wrinkly, and the whole thing has no really smooth surface. There's noise everywhere. It's just spread more randomly, so it's not like equally spread. And I take these notes, and then I apply it in into the crevices in between and in the areas in between to make that skin transition. Because alphas like these, they're cool. They're awesome to use. They give you results really quickly. The thing is sometimes they can be too specific. They might work for one area, but they don't work that much for another one. And for another area, maybe here it doesn't make sense because we have more like stretched skin and stretched wrinkle here. But in this case, let's say the alphas are there, the main skin rules are established. Now it's my job to make the transition. So I use pretty much the same technique again, because we have here an area of deformation, and the skin is going to wrinkle up. So again, I start to go in, maybe less aggressive. And I try to follow the shape of that alpha right here, that skin. So it's kind of round calluses. I'm going around them and try to embed them more. And again, follow his anatomy, of course. It's just following rules. The rules are there. It's actually a lot easier than to start from scratch, because you have everything we need to work with. All right. Then again, DAM standard, or my personal one. Oh, sorry. Undo. And go in. What I'm again doing is doing some of these sausagey wrinkles, but at the same time, trying to match some of that texture I already see over here. So I'm trying to mimic that. And I'm moving randomly over the surface. This is usually the time where I put on some metal and just zone out and just do this. Mm-hmm. So,
like metal music. You're just cranking it.
Yeah, trying to.
To metal music.
What are you listening to?
I listen to Anthrax.
Oh, wow, okay. That'll keep it going.
Testament.
Okay.
What else? Gojira. I do. And
this explains your speed.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, inflate brush. Oh, actually, put the inflate brush on this mode. Okay.
They're giving you the horns online too, like smashing.
Okay. There's the inflate brush to bring those up again, because I'm trying to mimic the skin that's already there. Just here and there. I have the rules, I have the shapes already there. I just need to emphasize them and bring them out. And try not to have the same shapes of the same scale next to each other that maybe look good for hard surface, but they can also create noise. That's one big rule I learned from a colleague of mine at Blizzard. It says regularity creates noise. So try to avoid it, especially in this case. So I try to break it down as much as I can. All right.
They're giving you extra points for your taste in music on the online chat. They're loving it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Makes it safe to say you've gone over today. Well done.
All right. So maybe I should embed one of these a bit more. What really works for that actually is the displace brush, because it doesn't mess with your detail. It just takes the whole thing and moves it along the normals. So the displace brush is just sometimes a bit aggressive, so I move it down and bring it up here so it moves everything out and doesn't mess with my detail. So that's really actually quite nice. Maybe I should go in and bring this in really quick. Yeah, I used smooth. I try to avoid smooth. If I need to fix something, try to sculpt over it, or what I sometimes use is, where is it? H-polish. Can't find my own brush. There it is. So sometimes when I need to fix something, I try not to smooth it out. I just do an H-polish and then bring it back. This callus maybe with the clay brush. Clay brush is great for scales and stuff like this. And then damp standard and move along and again. And I know what I need to do because the rules are right there. They tell me what to do. So, all right. So we created this transition. Do we have more time? Yeah, we can kill it in 3 minutes, I think. Okay. 2 tips for horns. I can't remember who showed this. who showed this, I think, in one of the earlier summits. And because I can't remember who it is, I'd like to share it again, just as a personal reminder and maybe a reminder for you guys. So for horn, I noticed someone picked the flake brush right there and turned on lazy mouse and the lazy step to point something like 0.7. I should maybe make this horns brighter. It's easier to see. Yeah. Okay. And what this does then, it creates this cool like wooden horn-like texture, especially when you layer it. You just do the light strokes up and down. And I use this a lot for horns like this. Or for wood planks. I use this to sculpt the yoke for Andariel. You know that? Nice. So just that one. So we create this horn texture. This might go against this guy's horn flow a little bit, but this is more just to demonstrate it. And another one I think is really nice for that goes for horns and it goes for bone, is just damn standard, and then you set it to spray. And what it does is, if you spray it here on top of this, it creates this kind of crazy surface right there. Make it even more aggressive in some of the holes. And then use inflate and go in and refine this a bit more. Bring it up. So that technique I use sculpting this guy's horns, some of the skulls, a lot of wood as well, but mostly bone for Diablo IV. And I think I even used it on Turboraptor for Love, Death, and Robots. This is, I think, when I figured this technique out. There we go. Then use damn standard again without the spray and emphasize those a bit more. Then we can bring the slash brush back into the game and do more, some kind of horn layering. You know, when you look at deer horns and horns, they have this layering going on, this fine grain one. We can bring that in and do the same effect here. And I follow the shapes I already have most of the time. This might be a bit random with this guy's horn, but I think it could work. And all we need to do then is, in the end, blend them back together. You can already ask questions because I think this is the last portion of it, because I think we're.
It's very clever. You've finished off your presentation, or your portion of it, with giving them the horns, literally. Well done, sir. Well done. Way in the back. I saw that hand up there first. Oh, if it isn't my old friend. What's up, Ara? Hey.
Hi. Question about how you have those cut lines, or the lines that are kind of going across the horn. Mm-hmm. Do you do that automatically, or is it manual?
Oh, you mean these guys? There's something, I do them manually most of the time, but there's something I use is, I have a brush that does this. And what I do is, in this case, come on, undo. Maybe go a little lower, because this is a really dense mesh. It may slow things down. I turn on lazy radius, and I do the lazy step. I put it higher to maybe first 1 and see how it looks, because then it does this repetitive stepping. Maybe there's a nicer way of doing this, maybe on this guy's body. Yeah, let's do it on the back of his head. So it does this. It's more aggressive. Yeah, that. That's the lazy step, because the steps are larger between each stroke. There's many ways you can do it. You can use the standard brush, turn on lazy mouse, use one of those cone alphas. Right there. I think that's even the alpha that it uses, like alpha 38. And then do this. And so I do it, oh, sorry. Undo this, and maybe go a little less with intensity. So I do it one row this way, and then I do Alt, and I do it again in between. Then I smooth it out a bit. And from there on, I start to sculpt each row. This is more like giving me like a guide of where to go. Then at the end, I emphasize them again using, let's say, inflate, and then I sculpt again like this, manually, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. We got another one back here. Hey, what's up?
Hi there. I was just wondering how often do you incorporate IMM brushes and VDM brushes into your workflow?
IMM brushes, me personally, very little. But it's a good question because on this one I did. I created an IMS brush, IMM brush, yeah, of those spikes because I had to place them everywhere. So I made one, I unwrapped it because I can also use it as a low poly, and then I don't have 200 spikes that I need to unwrap. I unwrap it already before I do the high poly. And I make an IMM brush and place it manually there. So the spikes of this guy were done using that technique. Yeah. So if it's necessary and I see opportunity, especially this, yes. There was a druid armor I did that had a lot of coins that used the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, one more here.
Hi. Question: do layers have any place in your high poly, your high frequency workflow here?
Layers, I do use them, yeah, but only if I'm not sure what I'm doing, and I need like the insurance to go backwards. Because layers, if I add a layer, they're awesome, they're super useful. At Guerrilla, we use them a lot, but for every layer, your file size just gets blown up. So we try to keep memory and file transfers light, and the scene light. I try not to use them all the time, but if I try to do something, I want to try out something. If a skin type works, I need to blend between two skin types to do some experimenting or some R&D, then I use them. And if I'm happy, I freeze them, and then I keep going. Yeah.
One more in the back here, too.
It's me again. Michael Long. Anyway, I actually wanted to know, so you do a lot of, for the micro detail, you do a lot of hand sculpting, but I actually want to know, especially with the shoulder, what was it, the right shoulder, I think, you have stamps. I just want to know, do you ever put in procedural textures? Because I'm going to assume that some of these pieces are like Z-remesh, so you can easily put them in like Rism UV or something like that, do a quick UV, or even do UVs in here, and then add your own unique skin or noises. Do you ever do something like that?
On this case, no, I didn't do it. Someone did something in that regard, exactly what you're saying. He had a zero mesh of a concept sculpt of a creature, and then unwrapped it and brought it into Mari, and then they used displacement maps from XYZ or Surface Mimic and painted it on, exported it out, imported it back into ZBrush, and applied it, using the displacement technique down here, and sculpted with that, and then kept on sculpting. Yeah. So they did what I did manually, just as a texture. Procedurally, I'm sure you can do the same thing. Yeah. Personally, I don't do it for game characters. If I work on VFX assets, then yeah, I do a lot of displacement painting and some procedural textures. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you add on to that. But actually, for tube, like things like the horns, you ever do just like a simple UV tube and then just have like procedural texture there?
Oh yeah, that would work. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you go in and you do what you showed us.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
you could
diversity.
Yeah. You might even end up working in a pipeline or a studio pipeline that says, hey, we don't need to sculpt that. We do it all in substance. So all you do, you make the shape. You maybe have the large shape sculpted in, baked down, you bring it to the substance, and then you do a procedural horn. Yeah, that all works. There's so many roads that lead to the same result. Yeah, absolutely.
Getting your questions answered here.
You guys want to switch?
Okay, one more here at the front before we switch it up, okay?
One more. Hi, thank you guys so much. Really enjoying the presentation so far. I was just wondering, how often do you guys get to do concept sculpts versus getting a concept? And then in terms of speed, how does that work out in production?
When you're being assigned an asset, everybody does a block out for it. And it depends on what the character is. Like, for armor sets, they can be simpler because they end up having the same workflow. But if it's something more complex, like a boss character, a world boss that has its own gameplay, its own mechanics, his own attacks, they need to do a lot more tests on it during gameplay. So we have a more detailed block out that we use to do the play tests, because then we have to go back, does this work? And someone has a new idea for an attack, and then we might need to change the design. We do another one for it. So that one can take a little more time. And yes, we take the block out a little bit further. Sure.
That was great. Let's give him a quick round of applause. Yeah. Come on. Thanks, Ben.
Shut it down. Yeah. Then you just start it again. Yep, sorry. Yep.
You really had them going in the chat for the music, man. The whole chat went in a whole other direction. I'm not kidding.
Next time we talk about metal and not ZBrush.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they deep dived. A lot of people are fans.
You go to the Blizzard folder?
You guys having fun out there? I'm not convinced. It's like the middle of Saturday afternoon. Let's try it again one more time. Are you having fun out there? That's more like it.
Oops. Do you have a PowerPoint?
Yeah.
There it is. Load all this custom stuff. Hotkeys, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Want me to time him? My phone is in my backpack. Let's see. You need to have it here.
Yeah, I'm going to put it there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you've got your hand raised for a quick question.
Yeah, we can still answer questions.
Taking advantage right here. I like that. I was just going to say, any more questions, and then boom, up they go.
Hey, Ben, huge fan. Question for the character you just showed. How many UDIMs would you use for that character, like in the final game asset? Like how many UV?
Oh, the Mega Demon?
Yeah.
That game asset had just one UDIM. It was just one single UV domain, I think, yeah. I think the cinematic version had way more.
Oh, probably like 50 or something, yeah.
Okay, 50? Okay. You can't do that in games yet.
Anybody else? Maybe I'll check online here, see if there's a question from the online crew.
Slow.
All right.
So I'm just going to load this.
Let's see here.
Is there one more?
Yeah, I think I got one right here.
Maybe from the chat.
Yeah.
If there's anything.
For the online people, we're going to give Olicron their just desserts. How is cloth handled when placed on metal?
How is cloth handled?
How do you handle cloth placed on metal, it says?
Placed on metal.
Yeah. I guess overlapping.
It's a take-out question.
It's a take-out question, yeah.
Say again?
It could be a take-out question, if it collides or if it animates during animation.
It's not really clear, so maybe that's not a good one. For the IMM brushes, or when you were showing the spikes, do you have the high poly in the IMM as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I froze the sub-D levels, though.
Sweet.
And then brought them back. Yeah.
Let's see here.
You okay?
Anybody else in the audience?
Gotta see how you can switch this.
Yeah, hey, front and center.
Switch this thing.
What would be the poly count for like a low, like a low poly version of the character in game?
In-game poly count for armor set?
For an armor?
No, for the whole character.
Okay, because that can vary. Right? We have armor sets and tiny like animals around the environment. Then we have huge bosses. So for an armor set,
the armor is 60K, and the full character is like 80K, with the head and everything.
Anyone else while we take it? Yeah, there's hands coming up all over the place. These guys have been salivating, waiting to get a hold of you the whole day here. Okay, let's talk about it. Here we are.
Come on.
All right. Hi. How much of the design process is done in 2D versus 3D?
A lot of the design is done in 2D.
Yeah, we have turnarounds. We have like front, back, side views, depending of the character and the depth of the involvement of the character. If it's a narrative character, there is maybe more views and more image of the face, more close-up. For monster, we try also to have the same turnarounds, but it can vary compare if it's an important character or less important character.
There's one more here. Hang on, I'm making my way around. It's a capacity crowd in here. There's people sitting on, I don't want to say this out loud too often, but they're sitting on the floor back there. Total violation of fire code. I guess that's the devil in it.
What were some of the biggest challenges for each of you individually through the project of Diablo?
Sorry, come again?
What were some of the biggest challenges for each of you individually while working on Diablo?
The performances.
Yeah.
The performances is killing us. Like when you duplicate a monster, gameplay is taking over. Like we have limited poly count, but still they can duplicate swarmers, enemies, and that's where we need to be extremely careful. Gameplay wants more because you need as a player to have more to kill, but the poly count need to be dropped, the LOD need to be dropped. So we always worry about the more enemy, the less quality we get. This is dynamic, so the polygon is going to drop, but for us it's probably the performances.
Especially because in the game you have an isometric camera and there's so much going on screen. Let's say you have a boss fight. You play with 8 people, and 7 of them have a necro, and each necro has its minions and a golem. You have all these draw calls going on screen, plus all the effects and that. So you have to be really careful with our poly counts. We can't make them too low, though, because you get very close, because in the wardrobe or in the inventory, you get closer to the characters. So all those characters, so in order for us not to model them like twice or 3 times, the same asset had to hold up performance-wise during the game, but also visually in the wardrobe. So that was the biggest challenge so far.
Cool.
All right,
let's take it
away.
You good? Take it away.
Let's do it. All right, guys. Hope everyone is ready to talk cinematics and look at some more creatures.
Let's hear it for them. Let's hear some noise. Yes, of course they are. They came for the big guns.
Again, I'm Jameer Blanco. I work for the cinematic character modeling team at Blizzard Animation. Today I'm going to be going over a certain quadruped representation of a demon that you may or may not know as Mephisto or Herald of Hatred. But before we start, we just want to say a big thank you to everyone at Maxon, ZBrush, and Blizzard for giving us the opportunity to come out here and just give back to the community on this very special 10th anniversary ZBrush Summit. So thank you.
That's where we clap and make a lot of noise. Yes.
All right. Very excited to share some behind the scenes with you guys today. So to start things off, here's a quick video of some of the work done by Blizzard Animation over the years. Please enjoy. Thank you. Thank you. So some pretty cool moments there, really taking a trip down memory lane to some of Blizzard's very first endeavors into cinematic storytelling. Just seeing how technology has evolved and our craft as well over time to some of the more modern cinematic moments you saw there is just really cool to see. So Diablo IV is Blizzard's latest installment in the Diablo franchise. The Blizzard animation modeling team was one of the first teams to spearhead the 3D sculpting and modeling of characters and environments to help establish the mood and direction for Diablo IV. So we partnered with the game team to help create and develop some of the most iconic characters and creatures in D4, from Lilith and Elias to Nyrel and Herald of Hatred. All our characters go through ZBrush, which allows us to quickly prototype and develop characters in detail for our cinematics. Today, we'll be looking at how I created Mephisto, Herald of Hatred, one of the characters that I got the great privilege to make for our cinematics. This cute little fellow was sculpted in ZBrush, textured in Substance Painter, and groomed within our real-time engine. So I'll be going over the ZBrush portion today, and hopefully by the end of this, you guys have a good idea of how something like this gets created for cinematics. All right, so as you may already know, reference is key, and anatomy is king. If we could all soak in all the anatomy knowledge for all the different kinds of humanoids, quadrupeds, amphibians, reptiles, etc., we wouldn't need to rely so much on reference, but since that's extremely hard to do, you always want to study and ground yourself in anatomy as much as possible, and then supplement your knowledge with reference before and while you're sculpting. So the goal of a character creature artist is to at least familiarize yourself pretty extensively with human anatomy. If you can become familiar with human anatomy, the bony landmarks, the major muscles, etc., everything else becomes a lot easier to understand and apply. So you want to look at reference no matter how good your anatomy is, but you don't want to just rely on reference. You need to spend the time really learning anatomy to understand what's really going on behind the reference or the concept of the character that you're building. So here's some reference I've gathered of wolves from different angles and different poses with their mouths open and closed. Also some illustrations that really help understand how the skull sits inside of the head, how much space is between the skull and the outer mass. And of course, we have our concept art here by Victor Lee, who's the concept artist for this, which really helps set the tone and idea for the character. So here's some skeletal anatomy. So really just spending a lot of time up front familiarizing ourselves with the anatomy of what we're about to be creating. All before we even get inside ZBrush. And again, once you start picking up anatomy and you become familiar with the bones and the muscles, that all translates. So for example, this isn't human anatomy. Well, at least I hope you don't think it is. But we can still point out, the rib cage, the spine, the pelvis, the femur, the tibia, the fibula. If we go up here, we can still point out the scapula, the humerus, and the ulna in the back and the radius in the front. So once you learn these bones and you know that they exist in the human body, you can point them out easily even in completely different species of animals. And so that's the beauty of anatomy. For our purposes, it can all be compacted into what's known as comparative anatomy. So here's some close-ups of the skulls. I knew this was going to be a big prominent element of the character. So it was really important to study this and become familiar with the features, how many teeth are between the fangs, etc. All right, so to start, I import a scan of a canine skull that we have at the studio. The scan first needs to be cleaned up, so I go through the process of deleting floating geo, closing holes, smoothing out artifacts, etc. And that's all really easy to do inside of ZBrush, especially now with Sculptris Pro. Sculptris Pro is amazing. It's like the localized version of Dynamesh. So you don't need to keep redynameshing your subtool every time. You preserve everything just by activating Sculptris Pro, which the hotkey is / on the keyboard, by the way. And you can smooth and get rid of holes, refine areas as needed, all while keeping your overall mesh intact. So it's a lifesaver for me. I use Sculptris Pro all the time at work and in my personal art. It's just an amazing feature. So yeah, thank you, ZBrush, for that. All right, so after cleaning up the scan, I bring it into the scene, move it into place, put it inside the wolf geometry. This is the base wolf geo, by the way. It was provided by the game team. And lots of assets start like this with a base mesh of some sort, whether it's from the game team or from scan data or even one of our previous cinematic assets. We usually start with some sort of base just to get things going. Notice the distance between the nose tip and the nasal cavity. That's kind of the stuff that you want to rely on reference for and look at it because it's really handy. So just make sure it feels correct. Even though this poor guy is unfortunately not going to have a nose by the time we're done with him, we want to make sure everything is set up spatially correct and start to layer things in a natural and realistic way. All right, so once everything's in place, I'm going to store a morph target and start pushing the skin back with clay buildup to get the layering effect. Notice I'm not subdividing the geo right away. I'll do broad strokes on the low poly first, just to keep things easy to manipulate. Once broad strokes are in, you can subdivide as needed, but for now, we'll keep it low just to cover more surface. So going around the skull, exposing it, I'll use morph target if I need to bring anything back, like around the eye. Using pinch brush here for the ears. And now I'm going to subdivide once to get more structure in the forms. My go-to brushes are Move, Clay Buildup, Standard, Damien Standard, Smooth, and Orb Flatten Edge Protect. And that's really all I'm using like 90% of the time that I'm sculpting. Damn Standard is great for suggesting like where bony landmarks are, so that's what you see me doing there. And I'm also going to pay close attention to the eyes, really want to make sure that, you know, everything's looking right there, so looking at a lot of reference, understanding how the eyelid structures work, how they flow in and out, very important. So I'll continue blocking out the main structure, paying attention to the concept, seeing where the flesh meets the bone. I'm also looking to get away from that very smooth look of the base mesh. Again, Damn Standard, great for this. You can quickly lay down some strokes and start bringing out some interesting forms on the surface. Just go back and smooth some areas to blend in and out a bit, and repeat this process with different brush sizes and intensities. That's how you're going to get something that feels more organic. Standard clay buildup, also great brush for building volume, as well as so standard and clay buildup. And again, you just want to use the smooth brush as well on all that. So nothing too crazy right now. I'm just going to move forward, spending a little more time, just making sure I'm matching the concept, looking at reference, and spinning my model around to make sure it's working from all different angles. All right, so there I'm just like masking the eye there to separate it from the fur, from the exposed eye, threw a little bit of color in there. And now I'm using Damien Standard just to block in some of the forms around the eye muscle. There I'm going in with the rake brush to quickly get those fibrous muscle details. It's a great brush for directionality, especially in cases like this where you have like muscle fibers, etc. So I'll just keep going around, hitting up areas I haven't touched yet, always looking back at the concept and reference and seeing what else I can add. Here I'm going to go back to where I sketched that separation and start using snake hook to really create more of an overlap. So starting to get out of that blockout stage and more into the secondary forms, you know, and refining those ideas. All right, so now I'm going to fast forward a little bit and turn on the final head sculpt. It's the same exact process, just spending a bit more time on it, getting notes and feedbacks and so forth. I'm going to jump onto the skull here and show you guys how I went about sculpting that. So the concept art has more of an eyebrow ridge. At this point, we're going to be turning on Sculptris Pro since we need to break away from the scan and add those custom elements. So with Sculptris Pro, I'm going to grab the snake hook brush and just start to drag out right from the skull geometry. And you can see in the wireframe, there's no stretching, no need to read Dynamesh. Very quickly adding a new eyebrow ridge, all while keeping the scan data intact. So that's why I love Sculptris Pro. It just feels like you're sculpting with clay. You don't need to worry about like technical issues or losing details with Dynamesh or anything like that. So just like before, we're going to sculpt some interesting forms on the surface, except this time we have Sculptris Pro turned on. That's going to ensure that we have enough geo to sculpt on, so you don't even need to subdivide the mesh. You know, you could just literally just sculpt and forget about everything. All right, so here I'm sketching in the separation between the skull and the teeth. It's going to help me later once we start refining and splitting areas. So a lot of clay buildup, a lot of Damn Standard, inverted Damn Standard to emphasize planes, also carving in some details in the nasal cavity. I'm noticing the skull ref also tends to have a slit on the zygomatic, so I'm going to be putting that in here. Always putting in that detail on the corners, like inside areas, always good. So here I'm going to, you know, I'm just hiding the teeth, and I'm going to close the holes here and just clean it up with Sculptris Pro. You can see how easy that is to clean up. All right, so now that I got some forms, I'm just going to do some clean topo here with just using Z-remesher, just making sure that, you know, there's enough geo in areas to hold the projection. So just going around, making sure that it can fit the projection, and then just reprojecting, cleaning up the surface, and then kind of just doing it again, just repeating the process as you kind of go up in levels. All right, so once you have clean topo, it's a lot easier to put in detail. So I'm going to go back to the nasal cavity, for example, and refine that detail. Being a bit more deliberate with the brush strokes, we can start creating those sharp breaks and corners using damp standard to block it out first. Then you'll see masking and pulling apart in areas to create more prominent breaks. So at this point, just going around and introducing some more breaks, secondary details, emphasizing the forms, etc. Here I'm going to use trim dynamic to flatten some areas, and I'll throw a bit of color in the nasal cavity to help push it back in space. All right, so if you didn't get a seizure from watching that, good news, because now we're going to jump into a bit more real time in ZBrush.
You have it open, right?
Oh.
Yeah, it's here.
So with the what's going on here? Actual. It's weird.
I think you have to switch and make a new document. If you go out of edit mode and make a new document that's larger.
Just make a new doc.
Yeah, then. Yeah, bring it back in. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to load in the sigil, picking up where we left off here. All right. So we're just going to pick up where we left off and kind of continue here. I brought in a sigil, the sigil that made in Photoshop. I'm going to use masking to get that in there. You can use drag rec or rectangle. The reason I like rectangle is because you can set square, and then you can easily just drag it out here, and then you can place it in real time wherever you want versus having to like place it on and then trying to undo and redo it. All right, so I'm going to put it there, invert the mask. I have a hotkey to just hide the mask, Control H. And then when I press Tab, I have all the main tools I use here. So like, for example, I'm going to use Inflate Balloon. And the difference between Inflate Balloon and Inflate is that you get kind of that bevel effect. So you get that nice like soft look. It looks a little too soft right now, so we're just going to go in with Inflate on top of that. And that's going to give it a bit of that sharpness. Thanks. All right, and since we do have that mask, we can even, go ahead and throw some color on that. All right, and then after we have our some initial color, like Ben said, it's nice to get color in there just to help look at things. I'm going to go in with the pinch brush and just start kind of pinching these areas because they're a bit wide. All right, so this is just kind of like finessing it. You never want to just kind of like one and done. You want to always go back and finesse things. So I'm looking at mainly these big guys here. All right, so once we have something like that, I'm going to throw in some surface noise. So for surface noise, I usually like to do kind of like a two-step approach. So let me make sure my mask is not, yeah. And that's usually just like separating the noise a bit, like making sure that it's kind of like split up so it's not so noisy in a sense. So just trying to isolate some of those shapes like that. Then that kind of looks good there, but surface noise usually, once you do it, it's like a little less, so. So I'm going to go ahead and apply, start getting some surface noise there. And then now I'll go in with the second pass, and that'll be like kind of like a more just general, generic noise. I'll like put the scale down so it's not so big. Start to get some breakup. All right, cool. So once we're done here, I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit here. Here's the more final skull, same exact method, just what I did there, just spending more time on it. I want to show you guys real quick, like just using bringing, like, kind of migrating or blending the flesh in, right? Because right now it's just like such a stark difference. So I have this other skull, which is basically, I duplicated it, inflated it inwards, and we can just start sculpting and getting that transition there. So I'm just going to do that. And at first, same thing, just kind of blocking it out. And then we'll go in with like Damien Standard, and you can start breaking it up. So this area is kind of like a big, this is a blobby area. So yeah, basically doing that around the head. Here's the final for that. And then I'll show you guys one last thing, just using the Curve 2 brush here. So to get all the veins that I was doing here, I did all that with the Curve 2 brush. So just going to stroke, modifying this, changing it to size, flipping it. Split that. And, this is kind of the approach that I use. And it's okay if it goes through, because you could always come back afterwards and move it with, like move topological, for example. So just making sure that you get those guys out. So that's kind of the process there. Here's the final for that guy. That's basically how I approach that. And yeah, I think, I was going to show you guys the whiskers, but we're running a little low on time, so I'm just going to skip that. But here's the final mesh. I did the whiskers the same way, just with the Curve 2, the Curve 2 brush there, and just kind of pulled them out. Again, looking at a lot of reference. So here's the final model that we did for the cinematic here for the head. All right.
Cool, man.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a time. Beauty.
Thank you, guys.
Beauty. Bring him up. Bring him up. Cool. We're really short on time, so sorry, Jason. We're going to put you under the new stopwatch.
All right.
Let's
But
take
I know you're capable. I see the look in your eye.
I can cut a portion out, so.
Put her there. Appreciate it.
I know you're fast. But
Guys, give it up one more time for the team from Diablo. Testify.
we can answer some questions if you have like a minute or so.
Say again?
We can answer questions.
Oh, you
we
want to feel
like
like okay, one question. We'll take one lucky contestant here. One question. They've been sort of taken aback by all the great work they just saw. You want to ask a question? You're about to come up on the stage. What do you got going on here?
Yeah. Hey, Jameer. Quick question. When you put the sketch that you did, the alpha, did you make that custom based on the shape of the skull, or did you just, it just happened to line up exactly with
the actual alpha?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't. So what I was showing was that you can drag it out on the side of the screen, and then you could bring it in and like put it wherever you want. So rather than like dragging it out on the geo, you can drag it out on the blank canvas and hold the spacebar, and then you could just bring it in, resize it, and once you like where it's at, you just kind of like let it go, and it'll go there.
It's pretty good right there. Pretty good. one more while we get them mic'd up in the back. We're going to do a couple of things are going on here off the side. Anybody else? Rodrigo, is that your hand up? You're just waving at me. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good. Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Clothing. I'm waiting all day for this one.
All
Okay,
right.
let's do it.
Just a little bit of a warning. My part of the presentation is very much like a lecture. So if you need to catch up on some sleep,
oh, come on now.
Feel free.
Make some noise for this guy. Jason, come on.
All right. Today, I'd like to provide a brief insight into the clothing creation process in our Diablo IV cinematic, By 3 They Come. That's the intro cinematic that announced Diablo IV. I'll first go over some design and style characteristics for these cinematics. I'll be sharing some quick fundamentals on clothing and fabrics. And if there's time, I'll give a brief demo. So out of all the Blizzard IPs, Diablo leans the most towards realism. So naturally, the clothing, both in style and design, is heavily influenced by real-world references. How they drape and fold pretty much follow the real clothing does. Although at Blizzard, we don't really do full realism because we're in the business of doing animation. So we take advantage of that. For example, even on the faces of our Diablo cinematic characters, we will push the proportions slightly or overemphasize certain details to push the look. But for the Diablo franchise, we never push it so far as to break believability. This is true for the clothing as well. We may try and hit a certain silhouette or overemphasize certain details that don't occur naturally, but help sell the character without sacrificing believability. Design-wise, Diablo IV is set in a gothic medieval world with muted fantasy elements. When designing these costumes, we start with the artistic direction set by the game team. Then we will take cues from both historical references as well as live-action media with similar settings to make sure that we have the texture and detail needed for our cinematics. Most of the information is worked out by our concept team, and we will add or fill in areas where needed. Along with the world of Diablo IV, the other important factor for the clothing is the characters themselves. What we do in cinematics is we tell stories, and we try to inject the storytelling into all aspects of production. For example, here's a trio of character concepts from By 3 They Come. They're drawn by Jonathan Fletcher. These characters are living in a harsh world of sanctuary and wanted their clothes to reflect that. They're all wearing layers of various fabrics with random bits strewn about, suggesting their lower status in the world. Their costumes prioritize function and are tattered and worn to show age. They're a ragtag group of adventurers seeking treasures, so all have various bags and pouches to carry supplies and loot. Only the two on the left are wearing hard leather armor to show they may be more combat-focused, contrasted with the conniving character on the right, who's just wearing soft leather. We include details like they all wear pointed-toe boots to suggest that they may have come from the dry steppes, which is an area in Sanctuary where these style of boots are common. All these examples are of design decisions that visually help tell the story of these characters. With the clothing designs established, we can move on to realizing them in 3D. Here's some examples of character breakdowns from concepting and the final 3D model. This one was done by Tasso Gionis, who's actually migrated and now working for the Diablo game team. This one was done by my brother, Kenny Huang. And this final one was done by me. On our team, all of our artists have their own approach to creating clothing, but all the examples I show here, all the clothes are sculpted in ZBrush. Including these characters and many more before and after them, I've learned a lot about sculpting clothes, and I'd like to share some fundamentals that I have found relevant in making the clothing. For full transparency, though, when I'm sculpting clothing, I'm going off of experience and intuition, relying on my mental visual library as well as actual reference. But for this presentation, I've thought about how to kind of break it down into some basic principles that I think will hopefully help others sculpt clothes. It's a very surface level breakdown, and so if you're interested, there's a lot of very comprehensive resources online and in physical media, although I can't emphasize enough that reference and observation is vital, at least for me, to create good-looking clothing. So I've organized these principles into 3 categories: the look of the clothing, the flow of the forms, and the type of forms. So first, let's talk about the look of the clothing. This informs the type of material that makes up the garment. On the cinematics team, we very much follow a film pipeline for asset creation. So as modelers, we don't apply micro details like weave and fibers. These are controlled by our surfacing team. So it's very important that we model the forms of the clothes so the material is evident without the support of these details. If we look in terms of cloth simulation, this would equate to the parameters of the clothing material that give it its look. One factor that affects the look is the thickness of the cloth. Thicker clothing gives larger folds and in general holds its shape better. There's usually also less folds happening. In contrast, thinner cloth has finer folds and much more of them. The look is much more flowing and draped. The next factor is the softness or stiffness of the material. What I find is on certain fabrics, you get rounder creases and folds, while on others, you get more pinched and folds with sharper transitions. Once you have the language of the fabric nailed down, now we have to figure out the construction. I find sculpting clothing very much like piecing a puzzle together. Based on certain parameters, you have to figure out how to populate your garment with details so it reads like clothing. The first step is to figure out the flow of the forms. Where are the areas with folds and without? How do we put together these details so it convincingly looks like it's worn by your character? First thing we look at are areas of tension and anchors. So that's the circled areas. These would be areas where your object underneath is supporting or pressing up against the fabric. These areas would be smooth with folds emanating and draping from it. While these hold up the fabric, there's the opposite force that pushes up against it, causing compressed areas and relaxed areas. Areas of compression are defined by many folds bunched together, while relaxed areas with little or no folds. One other factor is the tightness or looseness of the garment. A tighter garment will have thinner folds that are perpendicular to the underlying form, while the looser garment will have folds that are flowing more parallel with the shape of the object. So now that we have the general flow of the forms mapped out, to finish the puzzle, we need to understand the types of folds to populate these areas. I think one of the most common shapes people recognize in clothing folds is the diamond shape or the X shape. These are the most obvious in areas of compression, but if you look in the relaxed areas, you can also find the same thing. They're just either kind of pulled longer or a little bit less apparent. Another common shape is the zigzag shapes or the Z-folds. You might find these down the length of shirt sleeves or pants. They're also commonly mixed with other shapes, for example, the diamond shapes. We also have folds splitting from 1 to 2 folds. We see these occurring in areas of relaxed transitioning to compressed ones. We also find these where we have pinched anchor points. These are commonly found in areas with seams or areas like elbow creases. On flowing loose fabric, we will often find long straight folds that emanate from anchor points. These will grow from tighter folds to larger shapes as it moves away from the anchor. With fabrics where there are multiple anchors, we commonly see multiple U-shaped folds that are draped between them. Like with the long straight folds, they tend to be tighter at the anchors and looser the further away they are. Now, these are just some of the more common shapes we find in clothing folds. There are plenty more shapes you can find in clothing. Some are variations on these, and some are completely unique. So like I emphasized before, it's very important to study and refer to reference and expand your visual library. The more full language you have, I think the more believable your clothing can be. Do we have time for? Do we have?
We're out of time.
Okay.
But I think it's time for clapping for you because it was mostly informative. Arnaud, Ben, Jameer, Jason, thanks so much. We really appreciate it. I think, again, they want to make some more noise for you because it was a tremendous presentation.